So in the past couple of days, the second best quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, was talking with Stephen A. Smith on his podcast. And Stephen A. Smith asked him this question: who do you believe is the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs in the entire NFL? Now let me play you Tom Brady's response to that question. Here we go.
The number one threat to the Chiefs in the entire NFL.
I think it's probably still the 49ers and the Packers, I think, are going to be a great team. And you know what? I think the Rams are going to be a good team this year, too.
So I would have to agree with that assessment by Tom Brady. You look at last year in the NFC, in the divisional rounds, the Niners and Packers, of course, played each other. It looked like early in that game, the Packers were going to potentially have a chance to make it to the NFC Championship. Things went south. A field goal kick was missed late in the game that would have given the Packers a much better shot. Jordan Love threw a really, really bad interception to end the game when he had a chance to go down the field, score a touchdown, keep the Packers in it. That didn't happen. But when you look at the NFC and you look at the landscape of the NFC, there are a lot of really good teams, I would say. And I do think the Packers are up there, the 49ers are up there, the Lions are up there. The Rams were an interesting one by Brady as well. And I think anytime you have Matthew Stafford and a lot of the weapons they have there, they're a somewhat dangerous team. But specifically looking at the Packers when it comes to, how far could they go this year? As we already talked about, or as I already talked about, they made it to the NFC divisional round in Jordan Love's first year as a starter. Neither Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers was able to make it to the playoffs in their first year as a starter, and Jordan Love has already gone to the playoffs, won a playoff game, and almost beat the Niners, which would have put them in the NFC Championship. And I know there's some ideas out there that, okay, maybe Jordan Love, the final 8 games were sort of a fluke. Going into his second year, defenses are going to figure him out because they have film on him. I just do not think that is going to happen. I think there is no logical reason for Jordan Love to take a step back this year. It's nearly the identical offensive line. I think it will be better because Jordan Morgan, first rounder, will be playing right guard, where I think was a Packers' weakness last year. I think that's going to be a strength now. You have pretty much the same exact weapons, all of whom have now another year under their belt. So many of them were young players, as we all know. And so I just see no reason that this offense is going to take a step back. I believe that this offense is going to be better than they were last year. Last year finished as a 12th best scoring offense. I fully believe that they will not finish worse than the 12th best scoring offense in the NFL. You can clip this, bookmark it. It's going to happen. And Jordan Love as well, I think he is going to have a much better year in year 2 as the starter. Last year, if you look at Jordan Love's final stat line, 4,159 yards, 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, a 96.1 passer rating. I 100% believe and expect Jordan Love to have a better year in his second year starting, finishing better than a 96.1 passer rating. I just don't see any reason why this would not be the case with an offense that is just bringing back a lot of guys who now have the experience, where starting last year, they did not. So as you can tell, I'm very, very confident in this Packers offense. The one unknown, at least more unknown than the offense, is what's going to happen with this defense. Anytime you bring in a new defensive coordinator, you're sort of just making assumptions and predictions based off of comments, training camp, things like that. And while you can definitely get, I think, a good idea of what it's going to look like, until you watch week 1, week 2, week 3, we start to see some more and more of what this Packers defense is actually going to look like. It's hard to full on make a prediction. It reminds me last year when you're trying to predict the Packers offense, trying to figure out, how good is Jordan Love? How good is this Packers offense going to be? You can make your assumptions, predictions. You just don't really have that much information to go off of, and that's a little bit of how the Packers defense is going to be going into 2024. And because I'm so confident in the Packers offense and that they will be a top 10 offense, I would say probably they'll get into the top 5. The defense, on the other hand, there's a big unknown there. Personally, I do think they're going to be better than they were last year. You look at a lot of different stats for the Packers. They were the 10th best scoring defense in the NFL, but lots of other statistics not as great, especially lots of advanced stats like EPA per play, things like that. The Packers were a lot further down the list, one of the worst rushing defenses in the entire NFL. And now with Jeff Hafley, I do think we're going to see I think we definitely are going to see a switch up in the way this defense is run. There's no doubt about that. We already know the aggressive nature of this Jeff Hafley defense. And I think the biggest key and the biggest thing that could really shift where the Packers were last year and them getting farther is Xavier McKinney. I think that was the best signing of the entire offseason by the Green Bay Packers. I think it was necessary for them to really compete, to get a top-tier safety who could really come in and be a difference maker, be a ball hawk, a guy who can go in there and make big interceptions, a veteran-type leader at that safety spot. And so it does feel like everything is pointing and moving in the right direction for the defense. We'll see once the season starts if that takes place. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at teams who could potentially upset the Chiefs, you need to find a team that has a top-tier elite quarterback, and the Packers now have that. And so because of that, I think that it's going to be hard to bet against the Packers for the next 5 to 10 years, because when you find that guy, you are consistently going to be in that conversation, just like with the Packers back in Aaron Rodgers' day when he was in Green Bay. Every single year, you sort of have the expectation, like, we got to go for a Super Bowl. If we don't get a Super Bowl, it's sort of an upset. And I think that we're potentially going to be in that territory for the Packers in 2024 just because of the success we've already seen from the Packers winning a playoff game last year. And let's say the previous year, the Packers missed the playoffs. There would still be expectations because of how the Packers turned their season around at the second part of the year. But the fact that the Packers already won a playoff game and almost won a divisional game, even though they did lose it, it just raises the expectations for 2024. And now making the playoffs, it's sort of like that has to happen because it happened last year. And so there's no doubt there's much, much greater expectations for Jordan Love and this Packers team, this Packers offense. And I do think we're going to see them live up to those expectations. The biggest question for me is, in big games, big playoff games, big moments, can this Packers team do what is necessary to finish teams off? Because as I said against the Niners, the Packers were sort of in control early in that game, and it was a lot of later miscues that messed things up. A missed kick, which, as it stands right now, with this Packers kicker battle, if you fast forward and we're feeling the same as we are right now in the playoffs, I'm just going to, hope that we're up by more than a touchdown so that we don't have to witness a potential game-winning attempt, because that will make me very, very nervous. It'll be hard to watch the TV if that were to take place. So I'm really hoping, it's sort of when you're a fan at times, you're like, you don't know how it's going to work out, but you're just hoping that somehow things can turn around. That's really how I feel with the kicker position. Maybe we enter the year, Anders Carlson becomes a starter, and he just gets on fire. That's my hope, that's my hope as a Packers fan. Is there a reason to believe that's going to happen? No, unless things drastically turn around. And, as a fan, sometimes, we have to hold on to that 1% chance hope. Maybe it's greater than 1%, maybe let's call it 15%, 23% in this instance. But it comes down to these big moments, and can the Packers capitalize and finish teams off at the end of games? And for Jordan Love as well, we saw him play really, really well down the stretch, played pretty good early in that Niners game, but then at the end, when he had to go down the field, he was just trying to do too much. He made the throw across the middle of the field. It was intercepted, and there's no doubt he was just trying to make a play happen. It wasn't the greatest decision. So can he make those wise decisions in those big moments? That's one thing I want to see from Jordan Love in this 2024 season. But those are my thoughts on Tom Brady. Have to agree. Great take by Brady himself. If you guys want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.